And good afternoon, everyone. After visiting Palma Nova, the Star Fort in Italy, I really was interested after we finished Venice also to look at the maps of the period. Naval Museum shows us pre-reset, kingdoms of old, geography of old too. Greenland split in several places. What type of massive earth change would cause that to press against it? We got green there. Pre-reset, beautiful Moscow intact walls, Antiquitech, and looking into the Mudflood, late 1700s. We see it in the Alps. Everybody needs a large stairwell leading to nothing. Perhaps a message is left from the time of Leo or about a winged disk object moving through the solar system that sets and resets. And just returning from Palma Nova, the Star Fort city in Italy, where timelines are off and the massive construction, billions of bricks could not have been accomplished late early 1600s. LiDAR gives you the outline, but my interest was piqued after visiting Venice. These maps show what it was like 1590 in Venice, replete with double-headed eagles where the money has flown to. That was supposed to reset city. Also, they walked back in. But visiting the Naval Museum in Venice gives us a glimpse of two periods of time. Pre-reset, when everything was functional in the late 1500s, and then post-reset. They're just as organized as anything we have today with shipping and logistics, but early 1500s, we were told it was coming out of the Dark Ages, but perhaps it was the beginning of bringing back knowledge from the reset. More maps showing the Black Sea area here with the different kingdoms, fiefdoms in control, as well as you would expect in a nautical museum. The Davos crowd with their rulers, protractors, and mathematics for the longitude and latitude. It's encoded in many a painting. They leave the little stamp at the bottom with the ruler and protractor. Now notice there was a lot of iconography, hidden messaging. So what is truly the pre and post reset message? Where is it? So I went to Christie's auction house and I found, some of these book covers. This is Gaius Plinius Secundus, or the second. And if you dive a little bit further down onto the bottom of the page, you'll start to see what, in my opinion, is Leo the Lion encoded into the time period when the reset, at least one of them, the first builders perhaps. What we've walked into in our quote-unquote modern era in the last 500 years was, or even second set of builders that had done a bit smaller than places like Baalbek when the giants roamed the earth. Leo with the legs. Are the birds representative of a phoenix or a winged disk planetary body coming in on a 3,600-year orbit? Unknown, but it is there for us to try to decode, because if we look at the Earth in the past, and this is the recent past, 1572, but those massive canals are not there today. So what types of Earth changes would cause those two island sections to collapse in on each other? Now covered in ice. To the right, we see what is now Iceland.
Marjorie has taught millions of people how to grow an abundance of food in a grid-down situation, even if you have no experience, are older, or out of shape.
I've spent decades finding the fastest, easiest, and funnest ways for the average person to be able to grow a lot of food. I've created a step-by-step process that's so simple that even kids to elders have been using it in order to grow a lot of their own food. And you can too, even if you have no experience, you're older, or you're out of shape.
Marjorie's free webinar provides you with the tools and knowledge that you need to thrive during these difficult times. You'll learn Marjorie's 3-part system for quickly producing vegetables, eggs, meat, and much more. Go to homegrown2030.com That's homegrown2030.com, or click on that link in the description box below. And now on with the video. But if we look back at the late 1500 Greenland map, what do we see? Trees in northern Greenland, central Greenland. That looks like forest to me. Representative Groenland is what they used to call it. And yes, I can read a sundial. Hope you can too. This one's from Vienna. And obviously the 12 different zodiac signs around. I'm wondering when the Earth tilts, if those zodiac signs are some sort of indication when that will occur, and how would you reset the sundial? You'd have to add different slashes in different areas. Would definitely not have daylight savings time, let's say that. And back over to Christie's auction house here. I've Galileo, 1623. I like to look at some of these books that are really hard to find the covers in any museums even. Paintings, yeah, those are all around. Maps, sure. Book covers, not so much. You need to go to the auction house if you want to buy the original here. It's around 8,000 British pounds. And what do we have? Libra Astronomical Philosophica. And what is she holding in her hand is the question, because a lot of these motions of the heavens that signaled change had to be buried in paintings because the church was so powerful during the time of even Copernicus. They would have burned you alive for saying the earth is not the center of the universe. So how would you disguise that knowledge? Those are the original secret societies trying to protect the knowledge. Not like it's morphed into today with sociopaths, but something a little different. And shall we zoom in on her? So if that's the corona in the head, and that's truly representation of the sun, her head, then what do we have further out? Is that Saturn where there'd be some rings? Jupiter, is that what we're looking at? The two major planets that control the heavens, the magnetism, electromagnetic flow through our solar system? I think perhaps it would be. And something else to ponder here, the archetypes that we see through history. Adam, you know, the CIA declassified the Adam and Eve story. So perhaps Adam is the reset, coming back into the basics with the earth, nothing, just a garden, that's all you have. Well, that would be what you would expect if you had a civilization reset. Now, Solomon, the archetype of coming to the apex after a reset, everything, art, technology, mathematics, reboots itself for a better term and comes to the apex before we have another reset. So these could definitely be two different archetypes of reset is represented by Adam. So if we get a timeline in the Bible of Adam and Eve, and also with King Solomon, we can do that couple thousand years of time in difference, and maybe we can work out what the cycle duration is between that. But if you want to come a little closer in here, this is Coronelli, his map collection. He was one of the best cartographers in Italy. Did the globe maps that are about, 3.5 feet around. But this is what you consider Moscow with walls, ancient Moscow. But this was only in the early 1600s, this lithograph here, this print. But notice how giant the walls are. It encompasses the entire city. Rivers are cleanly demarcated, bridges. But then we come to this image here from 1796, 1797. So in that 100 and maybe 50 year period, there was a reset that occurred. And when I say a reset, I'm talking a geological mudflood reset. So when I first came across the lithograph here, I was thinking, oh, look at the Antiquitech on the left side on top of those spires, what you consider the onion domes for those that are familiar with Moscow and St. Petersburg. And a quick stop into the Antiquitech first. I was looking at these ether harvesting devices, and if those were copper domes and there was some sort of mercury in there, that would definitely create an electrical current ongoing. As Tesla had pointed out, you can pull millivolt charge directly from the air around you. The Earth's magnetic field is working 24/7, so you have 24/7 constant electricity. Now, I looked at the bottom and I said, wait a minute, that looks rather strange. Why are there plants and broken walls on what would be considered some of the best, most beautiful architecture in the image here? Which maybe delve in a little bit more deeply. Because what you're looking at here, remnants of a mud flood, definitely. So if you look straight to the back, and you can see where that mud is filled in the wall tremendously, almost to the very top of the wall. And I know some of you say, well, David, I just don't see it. Well, here it is for you. You can actually see where the mud had flowed to and stopped. And you might say, well, that's just the way they built things. There's probably a hill, and you're going to go down the hill, and then eventually you'll come and see where those archways are. And I thought maybe, but in the aristocratic era, would you leave broken stones just laying around on your patio where you would entertain? And also look how uneven it is at the walls, the slopes. Generally, in that time period, those would have been manicured gardens. And if we look at Versailles, they would have been stepped manicured gardens. But if you had a mud flood flow in there, that would look like a hill, and all of your terraced gardens would be gone, buried. And if you look at the riverside as well, you can start to see some detritus or incredible pushing of debris against the river. And if you look far back to where the river starts to bend around to the right, it looks like on the west bank, you'll also see a mud flow through the homes there. And looking straight back to where the archways are, where the mud is inside the walls, you'll say, David, I don't see it. Well, let's just go a little bit closer. It looks like it's pooled up on that corner there higher than it would have been in the center, which doesn't really make sense because your walls would be exactly the same height with the construction of the builders. They're not going to build them partially and then fill them in. That's a natural fill in. Post-reset is what they're experiencing. And also there's a lot of post-reset art across the galleries. Now this is quite easy and interesting to find depending on what part of the world you're in, but these were the original builders. Now maybe not in Baalbek, but we take a step forward prior to the ancient Romans, which the story is all around Italy. The ancient Romans, when they would walk into cities that were partially buried and constructed, they found cultural layers beneath that. What we consider the old ancient Romans, they were finding cultural layers and walking into what was reset. Not quite the megaliths in Baalbek of 20,000 tons, but somewhere similar where reconstruction could not be repaired because it was so advanced and so large that the Romans couldn't repair it. And of course, you're going to need your own giant staircase leading to nowhere in the Alps across a bridge, cantilever no less. You wouldn't ever just want to use wood to go across something. And is that a melted building and a melted castle in the back there? What kind of reset is this? Because you cannot tell me with a straight face something going straight up like that in a stairwell in 1779 is part of the normal Alps. This painting called The Voyages dans les Alpes. 1779. I'd like to go hiking back then. Now here was one off Homegrown Airs, the 1742 map. And I like to look at this type of map just to see what the astronomy is in there and if they give any signals of four gas giants lining up. But lo and behold, in the bottom where the little planet is, do I see Tartaria there? I think I do. Again, this Tartaria keeps popping up again and again and again in these older maps, but what we know is today, it's just not there. And is it, isn't it? But how is it the 1600 maps also show outlines and contours of Antarctica when it wasn't supposed to be discovered until the 1800s? So you start to see how some of these old source maps show you that there was a different type of society that had mapping technologies far prior, and they had the entire globe mapped out pre-reset. We lost that technology. We're at it again, and they don't call it the Great Reset for nothing. We're back into it. Have you seen the earth changes happening? This is all about the cycles, the grand cycles of the sun, changing of ages. We just changed into Aquarius. Welcome to the reset. I do thank you for watching. Hope you got something out of the video. And those of you following me on Patreon, supporting me there, thank you very much. Thursday night, we're going to do a wrap-up of some more lithographs and what I consider biblical paintings that show the four gas giants setting off the reset as biblical figures with electronic and electromagnetic changes based on the halo sizes that we see represented in paintings from the 14 to 1500s. And remember, Marjorie's free webinar, if you're going to be coming into spring, growing some of your own food, it's going to be crucial, especially when hyperinflation hits, supply chains contract further. Bye for now.